All right, welcome back. Today we'll continue this platform training, this time looking at reports. So let's hop in. So in Talkable, there are several reports, a whole reporting suite. Essentially, you can see some of them here at the top. So, for example, the metrics report, or purchases report, your referrals report. A lot of these are kind of what I consider database reports. So purchases report will show you all purchases, or the referrals report will show you all referrals, right? Those can be handy in some circumstances. So for example, if we were to go to the referrals report, we can see all referrals, filter them by their status or how they were tracked, even add some other filters like was the advocate rewarded or not, and then hit generate and it'll show you a list of all of your referrals. You can then export a CSV from these database reports as well. Same thing for purchases or shares. So depending on what you're hoping to find, sometimes the database reports can be a little bit easier. It helps you get that data that you need, that you can export, and then work with it inside of an Excel or Google Sheets type of a spreadsheet. We won't cover those as much today, but in theory, they'll all be something like this. Filter down from the original database report of looking at all objects of that type and filtering them, then you can export and rework them elsewhere. For today, what we're going to look at are more of these performance reports. You'll see them here. These are reports in which Talkable's already figured out a way of visualizing data or reworking data that can help you understand how's my program performing. And the one that I think is the most useful is metrics aggregation. So we'll spend the most time looking at that. Again, you can always see that up at the very top here under metrics. So let's look first at some of these like performance by channel. So performance by channel is one where we're looking at the entire referral funnel by the different sharing channels, or in other words, how advocates can share. We'll look at email, for example, direct link, and see how many of the shares have gone out by one method or another. So we can see here, 12% of all shares were a direct link share. An advocate just copied their share link. Got about 7.5% here that were SMS shares. So on mobile, people were sharing out via the SMS sharing channel. But primarily, email is the strongest channel here for this program. So 81% of shares via email. You can see how this all changes a bit once we get down into the funnel a little bit and looking at the friend clicks. So how many clicks are coming in per these different sharing channels? You can see direct link is responsible as a one-to-many channel for nearly as many clicks as email. We also see email reminder here. So email still winning a bit. Down to visits, this is that step where the codes are claimed. You can see emails retaking the share, and down for purchases and sales. Email with about 57% of all of the purchases originating as an email share from an advocate, 6% for SMS shares, and direct link for 37%. So what is this report useful for? A lot of times I'll use this report when I'm looking to see, is there a certain sharing channel that maybe we want to test emphasizing or try and encourage advocates to share in that way? In this case, when I'm looking at this funnel, I would say, hey, maybe we should try and test a layout, or even paring down sharing channels in the case of other programs, so that we can try and get people to share via link as much as we can. Those link shares seem to be worth quite a bit. So that's one way of using this, deciding how to A/B test sharing channels. As you can see with this particular program, we've actually pared down a lot of the others already. But we have sharing channels like Facebook post, Facebook message, Twitter post, WhatsApp. All is just standard sharing channels within Talkable. So you can, in the editor for the campaign, choose to either show or not show these sharing channels, or A/B test showing or not showing, or A/B test one versus the other. Maybe a direct Facebook message is going to work better for a certain program where we see email is king versus Facebook post. Maybe if it's more of a one-to-many type of relationship, we see as being a more successful type of a share. So those are things that you can figure out by A/B testing. Some other reports that we might want to look at: email performance, performance over time, and as promised, I'll show you the A/B tests as well, so you can see what it looks like inside that A/B test tile. All right. First, let's take a look at the email performance report. So you can see here, it lists all of the emails that are being sent from Talkable, like your friend share email. That's the one advocates initially send to friends, right? That's the 80% of shares that we saw in that previous report. Then, of course, we've got a reminder email. By default, they're 3 days. We've tested it to have a slightly longer delay here for 5 days. And then you've got your reward emails as well. So friend reward, paid email. This is one that we can set up. It's a little more custom, doesn't come standard when you create the campaign, but can be added. And this is one where we send the friend the code to their inbox after they claim it. So it's just a way of kind of giving them their code off-site as well. Got the advocate reward paid email, similar in theory. This one is sent, though, to the advocate after a successful referral. So after a successful referral purchase has happened and that pending period has passed, then we'll trigger this advocate reward email to be sent. Lastly, we've got this advocate offer email. This advocate offer email is one that we can set up by request. And it's essentially one that can be used like you would use for your own post-purchase flow. Oftentimes, what we'll do for the advocate offer email is set it up to send to people who saw the post-purchase pop-up, but then did not share from it. Kind of a way of trying to reactivate them. So if they saw the pop-up, they're a purchaser, they didn't share, they're one of those that kind of fell out at that point, they opted not to share, we'll try and trigger this email that would point them back to your standalone campaign. Try and reactivate them as an advocate. Long story short, this is going to be similar to other email marketing that you would look at in terms of open rates, click-through rates. You see those metrics here. With the referral program, just by its nature, it's going to have higher open rates, higher click-through rates than probably your other emails. This looks like it's coming from your friend, after all. So you can see here, 66%. Let's see our open rate for that initial email, 36% for a click rate. These are pretty much right on par. Yep. A benchmark here, if we were looking across all of the clients who use Talkable, would be 65% open rate here for this first email, 33% click rate. And then we see here the friend share email reminder. This is also about right on par. We want to see a 36% open rate for that reminder. We want to see a 14% click rate. So this is pretty much perfect as we want to see. Of course, if you see that they're lower, maybe you want to test subject lines to increase the open rate, or the layout or CTA within the email to increase the click-through rate. Anywho, that's the email performance report. And then we've also got, we'll come back to this one, the performance over time. This one is essentially looking at one metric per another, and then it creates a visualization for that. So maybe you want to know, how many site visits are happening per offer clicks, how many clicks per shares, right? That's kind of like your click rate, and see that over time. Just sometimes a little bit easier than having to export something and then create these graphs on your own in Excel. But to find out some of these data points to begin with, I usually find it's easiest to look here in the metrics aggregation report. So for this one, maybe we'll look at this whole previous year. Let's look at date range of a month. Perfect. Let's just look at how our funnel, entire referral funnel, has been shaping up each month throughout the year. So we might want to come down here and say, okay, impressions, sharers, advocacy, so we don't have to do the math, shares, sharing rate, clicks and click rate, visits and visit rate, how many new customers are coming in from the program. That's pretty useful to know. And let's look at these dashboard metrics as well. How much revenue are we seeing on that dashboard each month? What about that percentage lift? What's the AOV of referral? And conversion rate. So when you hit generate, it's going to generate a table, like a tabular output of all of these data points. Again, you can export this as a CSV if you'd like. Maybe you want to rework this in Excel or something, or maybe that's where you keep track of it with your team in terms of like channel performance. You can also bookmark it. So you could, type in monthly funnel report and hit bookmark so that you can always come back here and it'll be easier. You don't need to check all of those each and every time. But here you can see that. So, for example, all of these different impressions, great, increasing each month. Love to see that. And we see the revenue increasing as well. Or for example, percentage lift, conversion rate. All of this is here. So maybe just to run through what some of these are again. I know we did this in the very first video for the dashboard metrics, but for advocacy percentage, we want to see this between 5 and 10%. That would be a healthy advocacy. This is higher. That's great. Sharing rate, we want this between 1.2 and 1.4. You can see dip down a little bit here for a couple of months, but this month is healthier. That's good. Click rate. Remember, we want it to be for email-focused programs above 0.7. For those with kind of mixed sharing channels, when we're looking at the performance by channel report, above 1, just as a rule of thumb. Here you can see this is a great click rate. Got a lot of clicks happening. That's thanks to the link. Visit rate, we want it to be 33 to 50%. This is at the high end. Great. And conversion rate. Remember, we want it to be 15 to 30%. This is within that benchmark range on the lower end. So maybe we'd want to try and put in place some on-site reminders or reminders via email. Hey, you've got this code. Don't forget to use it. And that might help us bring up the conversion. Otherwise, of course, testing the friend offer could help too. All in all, pretty good performance. Lastly, I promised you we'd look at the A/B test. So let's take a look. Here's that reminder subject line test that we were looking at on the dashboard. Um, it's finally loaded. And we can see here, this one's ready to select a winner. For progress, which is that bar you'll see actually on the tile itself on the dashboard, it's essentially looking at, how many impressions has this test seen, how long has it been running, and most importantly, the statistical significance. So we can see here, there's not a ton of confidence in this one. So, for example, we want to see 90% or more in confidence usually in order to choose a winner. We're not seeing that here. So 100% means, hey, look, you've been running this long enough, seen enough impressions, you're not probably going to get any confidence. You'll want to stick with a control in this case. But for this subject line, you can see we're testing variant A versus variant B, hoping to see share emails opened per share emails delivered. What's our open rate? What has the better open rate for our email reminder? As you can see, variant A, which was our control in this case, technically has the higher rate, but they're very close, hence the low confidence. So we might want to go ahead and set this as our winner. Anywho, that's the reporting suite. Really, to get to know it best, you should just get in here and tinker around by clicking on all reports here up at the very top and looking around for yourself. Again, we've got database reports and performance reports. Here in the reporting sections also where you can see some more administrative ones, like where do you upload your coupon lists or your existing customers. This is usually done at the time that your program is being set up, so you probably won't have to come in here too often. But I encourage you to come in here and tinker around for yourself, and if you have any questions, of course, feel free to reach out to our support. Up next, we'll be looking at the customer service portal.